We are back in the presence of the jury. All 14 members are present. The attorneys are present along with Mr. Miu. We're ready to resume the afternoon session. Mr. Anderson, who is the next witness?
Judge, this state's going to briefly recall Terry Anderson.
Terry Anderson, you said?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson, please retake the witness stand. You're still under oath from this morning. Carl Anderson,
Thank you, Judge.
you may begin.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm handing you what's been marked as Exhibit 41. Can you identify what that is?
It's the CAD report, the command log for the incident.
What is a CAD report?
It's a record of the location of the incident and then any notes that the dispatchers would make regarding what's being said on the radio or told by callers. And it's a log of the change of status for any units or officers that are involved with the incident.
So if an officer says, I'm on scene, that gets logged in there, things like that?
It does, yes.
Okay. Can you turn to page 7? Does the CAD log on that page have the time for when the suspect was detained?
1649.
So it'd be 4:49.
4:49 p.m.
And could that be off by a little bit?
It could be.
And can you just explain that?
So it's noted on the audio recording of when it was said, but if the dispatcher was busy at the time when the transaction occurred on the radio, there might be a delay depending on what all that dispatcher's doing. It could be a few seconds to maybe 15 seconds, maybe in that area, depending on their activity load, because they're multitasking.
Thank you. Judge, I moved to minute 41.
Any objection?
Do we approach?
Yes.
I'll withdraw, moving to a minute.
All right. Thank you. You have more questions for Mr. Terry Anderson?
I do not.
All right. Mr. Nelson, do you?
Thank you.
You're excused. Who's next?
Sheriff Knutson?
Sheriff, please come forward. Please face the clerk, raise your right hand. She will administer the oath.
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Please have a seat in the witness chair. Mr. Anderson?
Can you please state your first and last name and spell your last name for the record?
Scott Knudsen, Knudson,
And how are you employed?
Sheriff for St. Croix County.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
In my 29th year,
How long have you been sheriff?
since 2017.
And as sheriff, do you have, what, can you just briefly outline what your duties are?
A number of administrative duties as well as overseeing the jail, tending to the courts.
Do you typically get involved yourself in patrols or investigations, or are you more administrative?
Not often, more administrative and ensuring cases are assigned out.
Do you work Monday through Friday, business hours essentially?
Yes,
Do you get called in often too?
I do.
Did you get called in to the Apple River stabbing?
I did.
And where did you respond?
For my residence right in the Somerset area.
And did you go to the scene of the stabbing or somewhere else?
I originally went to the bridge, the Sunrise Bridge, which was very close to the scene of the stabbing, the closest access point.
At some point, did you end up going to the park where the exit is?
Yes.
And what was the overall response, law enforcement response for this case?
There's a large response from not only internally with Sheriff's Office and coordination with getting people called in, but also surrounding communities. It was outside of the village limits, the original incident, so Somerset was involved. Richmond was coming over. I believe I was on the phone with Washington County, just trying to get staff and resources to come our way.
And were helicopters called for also?
Yes, I believe there's a helicopter en route as well.
And was that specifically a law enforcement helicopter?
Yes, I believe it was a Minnesota State Patrol that we were trying to gather.
And what's the point of the State Patrol helicopter?
At that point, we weren't aware of where the suspect was and that he was not in that area. So because of the wooded nature of the river and the long banks, that a bird's eye view was going to help us tremendously.
And was the sheriff's office trying to set up a perimeter?
Yes, there was a perimeter that had been set up from the hideaway on 170th towards County Road I.
And at some point, did you hear that the officers believed they had a suspect in custody?
That is correct, yes,
And did you respond to the area?
I did.
And did you end up making brief contact with Nicolae Miu?
I did, yes.
And were you wearing body camera?
I had my body camera with me, yes.
Judge, I'd move to admit and publish the body camera.
What's the exhibit number?
7.
The objection to number 7?
No.
7 is received. Please play the portion that you wish to play.
Camera recording started.
Still doing all right? Okay.
What's going on?
Temperature? Temperature's okay in here? Okay.
Somebody, I hear somebody got stabbed, and I fit the description.
Yes, you do.
All right.
Yep, so we're working through that now.
Judge, it's 23 seconds. I'm going to ask if I can play it again. I was a little quiet at first.
The volume was turned down. I'll let you go one more time since the audio is perhaps relevant.
Camera recording started.
Still doing all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's going on?
Temperature's okay in here? Okay.
Somebody,
Alright.
I hear somebody got stabbed, and I fit the description.
Yes, you do.
All right.
Yep. So we're working through that now.
I just have one more question. So if earlier the jury saw a body camera of Nicolai being told he's under arrest for homicide, was that actually after this contact? Where he's transferred from one squad to another in a parking lot?
No, not transferred from one squad to the other. That was after this contact.
Gotcha. Okay, so this happened, then transferred squads in a parking lot, told he's under arrest, happened after your contact.
That is correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify it because we went a little out of order with the testimony. Nothing else.
Mr. Nelson?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You're familiar with the Apple River?
I am.
I think we've seen some maps and talked about Village Park. You familiar with Village Park?
Yes,
That is essentially the designated exit spot for tubers, correct?
that is correct.
Mr. Miu left the river at the designated exit spot for tubers, correct?
I would believe so, yes, from where he was standing.
You didn't personally observe it, but you saw him there at Village Park, correct?
Correct.
You didn't see him get out of the tube and walk up, but that's where you first saw him, correct?
That's where I first made contact, yes.
And obviously, you're not aware of any other evidence that he exited somewhere before that, correct?
No, I'm not.
All right. As the sheriff, I would imagine you are aware of cases in your county, correct?
Most of them, yes.
And some cases maybe draw your attention more than other cases, correct?
That's correct.
Certainly, this is a case that you were aware about from the get-go and you've paid attention to, correct?
Correct.
Because that's your job, right?
Yes,
It's your responsibility, correct?
correct.
Obviously, there's investigators and other law enforcement officers that are assigned specific tasks, right?
Yes,
But you, as the sheriff, ultimately, you supervise all of that, right?
yes,
So I would imagine you are occasionally updated about the investigation, correct?
correct.
Updated about evidence gathering, correct?
Yes,
There might even be times when you meet with the investigators to talk about what the status is about some piece of evidence or what other evidence you might want to collect or other things of an investigative nature, correct?
yes,
Because as law enforcement, there's lots of things you want to do. I understand there's safety and there's all of that, right? Correct?
yes,
I'm just going to put that aside for a second, okay? Talk about the investigative role of law enforcement. Are you with me?
yep,
And in that role, it's essentially your role and responsibility is to collect any and all evidence that you can that you have reason to believe might be relevant, correct?
correct.
And that's something that there's policies on in your department, correct?
Evidence collection, yes,
And I'm sure you played a part in those policies. They've changed over the years that you've been the sheriff, right?
yes.
And
I'm not checked on relevance and foundation for this witness.
I'm unclear what the relevance is. Where are you going?
well, let
Well,
me,
actually, why don't you come on up? You can tell me. Objection overruled. You may continue.
And I don't want to get into the particulars about policies, but in general, there's policies, you play a role in forming those policies about making how investigations go and how evidence is collected, correct?
Correct, and best practices, yes.
And probably even before you were a sheriff, but certainly since you've been sheriff, the value of evidence from phones has increased, correct?
Yes,
You're certainly aware that lots of information can be gathered from somebody's phone, correct?
correct.
And you, as a standard in your office, I'm sure it's, your officers, deputies, investigators, they collect phones, correct?
When applicable, yes.
And when applicable, they then do a forensic download of that phone, correct?
Yes,
To gather anything and everything that they can from that phone, correct?
yes.
In this case, you were, again, I don't want to get into the details of what somebody told you, just your general awareness about a particular part of the investigation, okay? You were aware that there was going to be a factual issue in this trial about whether Madison Cohen was or wasn't punched. What happened to Madison Cohen, correct?
If that's the lady that was punched.
Well, that's a factual issue that the jury's going to decide, but you understood that there,
I don't know the name.
That's all you meant.
That's what I meant.
but that there was a witness, let's put her name aside. There is a witness that was there, and you're aware that there was a factual issue about whether that witness did or did not get punched or slapped or pushed, or how there was some contact with her. Agreed?
Yes,
And you're aware that as part of that investigation, your department was trying to see if there was or there wasn't a photo of her face that might document an injury, correct?
that sounds familiar, yes.
There's been testimony that I want to give you a chance to see if you have a rebut to that, right? There's been testimony that perhaps a phone was offered up to the sheriff's department with a piece of evidence, and the sheriff's
Overruled.
department said, no, we don't want that phone. We don't care about that picture.
Yes.
Let me start over. There is a witness whose name is Quentin Carlson, and he testified that it was his understanding that there was a photo taken of this witness, Madison Cohen, and that the phone that took that photo was offered up to your sheriff's department, and your department said, nah, we don't want the phone, we don't need the photo, we don't want anything to do with that. Are you aware that any such phone was offered to the sheriff's department?
I'm not aware of that, no.
I would imagine had a phone been offered up to the sheriff's department, the best practice, the policy would have been for them to collect the phone, correct?
Best practice would be, if applicable, yes.
Certainly if somebody in a homicide case said, I've got a photo of the injury to one of the victims, that would be applicable, right?
Yes,
And so in that scenario, the best practice, the policies that you've helped write and establish within the county would be for your sheriff's investigators, members to collect that phone, correct?
yes.
And as far as you know, they did collect a phone, right? Or you may not know,
I don't know.
okay. You would, if they did not, that would surprise you, right?
May or may not, depending upon everything surrounding it. There was a lot of evidence that was collected. I don't know where this one you're referencing fell in,
Okay.
or at what time?
Maybe I should just ask you this. Based upon your position as the sheriff, do you have any reason to believe that it's true that a piece of evidence in a homicide case was offered up to the sheriff's department regarding alleged victim Madison Cohen, and that your department just dismissed it and said, we don't want it? Do you have any reason to believe that that's true?
I have no reason to believe or not believe it. That's all news to me. I don't know.
Okay, all right. I'm going to move on to a different topic now, okay? I would imagine in your 29 years, you've had lots of different roles within the sheriff's department or as a law enforcement officer, right?
Yes,
Probably like lots of people, in the sheriff's department, you started out on the road, you've eventually moved up in ranks, and now you're the sheriff, correct?
correct.
As part of that training, you have training and experience to detect alcohol, right?
Correct.
The use of alcohol by people, correct?
Yes,
And you certainly know that sometimes whether somebody has or has not consumed alcohol, that's going to be important and relevant to an investigation of a crime, correct?
it very well could, yes.
And so when you're in those situations, even if you're not looking for it, if you happen upon evidence of alcohol consumption, you would note that, correct?
Yes,
If you were arresting a suspect and you were in their personal space, close enough to them to smell alcohol, you'd have made a note of that, correct?
correct.
Or if you heard slurred speech or something along those lines, you'd have made a note of it, correct?
Yes,
Any sign of intoxication, you'd make a note of it and you could figure out the relevance of it later, correct?
yes,
Sometimes, if you made observation of it, you might decide to do further investigation, give a test of some sort, whether it be a chemical test or a field test, correct?
Just objective, these are cumulative.
It's not cumulative with this witness.
What's that?
It's not cumulative with this witness.
It's not, but we've heard this before. Let's just cut to the chase.
You agree?
can you read your question again?
And there's some times where if you did note something that you smelled or you heard or some other observation, you might continue and do further tests, either a field test or a chemical test, right?
Based on the crime, yes.
In this case, you had contact with Nicolae Miu, correct?
Yes,
We saw the video where he was sitting in a closed, in a back of a squad car, correct?
yes,
Closed space, right?
yes,
Hot day, right?
yes,
And you were there to check on the temperature for him, right?
correct.
And when you opened the door, you had a brief conversation with him, correct?
Yes,
And then later at a parking lot, sometime later, you also were there when he got out of one car and got into another car, correct?
yes,
And you had contact with him there, correct?
yes,
Throughout all of those contacts, is it fair to say that you didn't see any signs of intoxication?
I did not detect any, no.
That's all.
Mr. Anderson?
Nothing else.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. You may step down.
Thank you.
Who is the next witness? Investigator Sheppy, please come forward. Please face the clerk, raise your right hand. She will administer the oath.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Please have a seat in the witness chair. Mr. Anderson,
Can you please state your first and last name and spell your last name?
Mitchell Sheppy, Scheappi,
And how are you employed?
is an investigator at the St. Croix County Sheriff's Office
How long have you worked in law enforcement?
since 2016.
And were you one of the investigators assigned to this case?
Yes,
Did you also respond to the scene on the day of the incident?
yes,
And at some point, were you alerted by other officers that a knife was located?
yes,
Did you respond to the area where it was located?
I did.
And can you just kind of tell the jury what you came upon?
So when I was notified of where the knife was located, me and my partner walked through the river back to the scene. When we got there, we noticed officers from the Richmond Police Department up on a ledge and pointed down to where a knife was in a muddy section of the shoreline. Just above that shoreline, there was sort of a wall that had dried dirt on it and some green moss. The knife was located, laying there closed on top of the muddy portion of the shoreline.
And were the officers who alerted you to it, were they still standing there at the scene where it was?
Yes,
And did it appear the knife was undisturbed, meaning no footprints leading up to it or anything like that?
correct.
And you said you took photos?
Yes,
Permission to approach? Showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 50. Can you just look through that and then identify what they are?
these are photographs of the knife and the area around the knife as I walked up to it.
Judge, I move to admit and publish.
Any objection to 50? No? 50.
Let's show them digitally. I'll let the clerk know when I'm ready. And just before we go into these, did you take pictures from different distances and also of around the area where the knife was?
Yes,
Okay, I'm ready. So what are we looking at in this photo?
that's a picture from me out in the water. As you can see, the officers from the Richmond Police Department are up there, and that's the overall area of where the knife was located.
I'm gonna zoom in and see if you can see the knife in this photo, just for context on the location. Is that it right there?
Yes,
The branch on the zoomed out picture is almost pointing to it.
correct.
And what are we looking at here?
Just a different angle of the knife itself and the area around it.
This photo?
This photo is to show the undisturbed nature of the sand.
Same thing, other direction?
Correct.
What's this photo?
Photo of the knife.
What are you trying to document here?
In that photo, I'm trying to show the vertical facing wall and how the dirt on there is not dry and the green moss that was on the knife as it was laying there.
And now I'm back at, for the record, the digital file, and this one ends 1938-46. Can you elaborate on that while looking at this photo?
Yes. So as you see, the knife here is what I observed is the dirt on top, what I believe to be dry dirt, different than what's wet on the bottom below it. When I concluded to believe that the knife was tossed or placed up against the back wall before it fell there.
The dirt the knife is sitting on, was that, and that's a hypothesis, you don't actually know that, fair?
Correct.
But the dirt it's on is wet, is that fair?
Yes.
The bank behind it was dry?
Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So it's kind of hard to see terrain in photos, agree?
Yes.
So obviously not to scale or anything like that, but if this is the river, can you just, is this what kind of the, why don't you describe it for the jury?
Yeah. So if this was the water, the river, where the knife was located would be right here on the washout. The vertical rock wall that I was just trying to describe was right here, and this is where the officers from the Richmond Police Department were standing up top.
Okay. And can we have the screen back, please? Close up of the knife,
Correct.
then is that you holding it?
I don't know if that's me or Deputy Kelly at the time.
That's actually probably not you, huh, given where it's coming from.
Correct.
All right. And was the knife, you can mute it. Was the knife secured? Was the knife secured as evidence?
Yes.
How did that happen?
I provided the knife to Deputy Bolt, who was up top. He put it in a paper bag and walked the knife back to land to the evidence collection point and secured in a vehicle.
And who was the evidence tech for this case?
Deputy Kelly.
Permission to approach?
Yes.
I'm handing what's been marked as Exhibit 64. What is that?
It's a list of the evidence collected in this case.
And is that this knife on that list?
Yes.
And how, do you use some sort of numbering system to differentiate between evidence items?
Yes.
What evidence number is the knife?
Number 10.
Okay. Judge, I'll offer 64.
Any objection to 64?
No.
The exhibit's received.
Permission to approach?
Yes.
All right. Handing you what's been marked for the case is Exhibit 4. What is that?
This is a box containing article number 10, which is the knife.
Can you open it up for me? You can put on gloves. Judge, while he's doing that, I'll move to admit Exhibit 10 and publish on the Elmo.
Exhibit 10 is body camera.
Exhibit 4, sorry, evidence item 10.
Any objection to Exhibit 4?
Once he opens it and it's confirmed, no.
Let's wait.
Is it sealed all around with evidence tape?
Yes. That is article number 10, the knife.
Can you,
Objection to its admission? No. All right. Exhibit 4 is received.
are you able to take it out of the box?
Yes.
Can you bring it over and set it under the Elmo here? Can you open the blade also? Thank you. You can put it back in the box. I don't have anything else, Judge.
Mr. Trofasi?
Thank you. Investigator, did you have an opportunity to watch the video of the incident?
Yes.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
Okay, so to be fair, on the video, you see Mr. Miu walking in the direction.
Objection overruled. You may answer.
So investigator, it's shaky? You tell me.
Sheppy.
So you said you've seen the video. On the video, do you see on the video where Mr. Miu walks over toward the area where the knife is found and then walks kind of away from that area?
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you, if I can, about another part of the investigation that you did, okay?
Okay.
You are an investigator, right?
Yes.
Do you also do forensic downloads of cell phones?
No.
Do you collect those cell phones to be forensically downloaded?
Yes.
And can I ask you on September 2nd of 2022, do you remember being brought into a meeting with Investigator Williams and Madison Cohen and her mother? Do you remember that?
Yes,
Did you write a report on that?
I did.
Okay. And there was, in terms of what you recall, there was a hope of trying to locate a potential photo of Madison Cohen on her cell phone, right?
Yes,
Right? And if you recall, there was a question on whether that could be done because Ms. Cohen had told you that it was deleted, right?
correct.
Okay, so she had said, I've taken my phone and I've deleted that off of my phone.
Yes,
Do you, as you know what type of case it is in September, right?
yes.
Do you ask her at all, why would you delete you're the alleged victim of a crime, why would you delete the picture in a case like this? Do you ask her that?
I don't recall.
If you would have asked her, would that be in a report that you prepared?
It should, yes.
And she's with her mother in this interview room, right?
Correct.
And once she says, meaning Ms. Cohen, once she says that it's deleted, you explain to her that there's potential ways to recover information that's been deleted off of a phone, right?
Yes,
And you explain to her that there can be what is known as a forensic download of a phone, right?
yes,
And what that would be, kind of in layman's terms, is whether it's your department or some law enforcement department, has the ability to kind of go through someone's phone, finding information that the user believes they've deleted off of the phone, right?
yes,
Okay. And you explained to Ms. Cohen that it was possible, if she would provide her phone, for your department to do that forensic download, right?
yes,
Okay. You ask permission for the phone to do that, and she provides you permission. Is that true?
correct.
You review the download of that phone. True?
Yes,
Your review of that download, and let me ask you this, you really try to you tell her and you want to narrow the time frame that we're dealing with here, right?
correct.
Okay, so somebody might have 10,000 photos, but the forensic download can narrow it down to a specific day, right? You can search for a specific day, right?
Through the entirety of the download, yes.
Okay. And you've reviewed the forensic download information, and would you agree?
I guess I'd just object on, I don't think that's been asked yet.
Well,
Let's get the question out first.
okay. Would you agree your report indicates, I did not observe any photographs that appear to be taken of Madison's injuries during the time frame?
Correct.
Okay. So based on the information that you have, it wasn't deleted, right?
Object on foundation and speculation. Can we approach?
Yes. Objection sustained on foundation. Next question.
Thank you, Judge. So investigator, in terms of what you did, in terms of it says your review of the download. Can you explain what you did in that regard?
Yes, sir. So I don't have any part in physically downloading the phones. I don't have training for that. However, I'm able to review what a person that is trained on that, downloading the data that's in there.
And what does that consist of?
Can consist of photographs, call logs, social media accounts, text messages, et cetera.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to make this quick and get rid of the stuff that doesn't matter. So when you're looking at this download, are you seeing photographs that you're not interested in?
There may have been in the consented time frame that Ms. Cohen had given me, but I'm looking for specific photographs of our conversation.
Okay, and that was, to be fair, that was in reference to these injuries that she said she had documented, right?
Correct.
And is there information provided in this, I'm gonna call it download report? Is that fair? Is it like a download report?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there information in that download report as to whether or not, in this particular case, there were other deleted, I'm not interested in what they were, but other deleted pictures?
I don't recall if there were other deleted pictures in the consented time frame
Okay.
of what I was looking at.
Does this report, so this report indicated to you, or what was in this report is, there's no photographs that appeared to be taken from the injuries during that time frame, right?
Correct.
Is there information in there as to whether or not there were any, you don't know if there were any deleted photos from that time frame?
Correct. I do not recall.
Do you know, based on your training and experience, whether or not deleted photos can be recovered?
I don't have the Celebrite training, but in my experience, I know that sometimes deleted photos and messages may be recovered in a download.
Do you recall speaking with Madison Cohen and her mother about this injury that she said she had?
I recall the meeting, yes.
Okay. And the meeting is recorded, is it not?
Yes.
I'm gonna ask if you remember. If you don't, I can show the video. Do you remember Miss Cohen's mother directing a point on her face where she said she saw the injuries?
I recall that instant, yes.
Okay. And what she recalled, to the best of your recollection, is she was pointing to the left side of her face, correct?
I don't recall that, no.
Okay. So, just so I have it clear, investigator, you don't have a recollection, if I heard you correctly, of where Ms. Cohen's mother pointed on her own face that she saw the injury to Ms. Cohen, is that fair?
Correct.
Show that. That's it. Investigator, if I show you a still photograph, it's a still of the video interview, might that help refresh your recollection as to where Madison Cohen's mother said that this occurred on?
Yes.
Can you see that?
Again,
I can't see it that good. You'd agree that in that photograph, she appears to be pointing to the left side of her face, right?
correct.
Okay. No other questions. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Anderson?
Did Madison's mother confirm she saw some sort of injury on Madison?
I don't recall.
She's pointing to the face, is that what she's been doing?
That picture, she was either pointing, scratching, it was on the left side of her face. Yeah.
Oh, you don't even know what the context of that is, just from that still shot?
I mean, no, but
Okay. So, Madison, the forensic download, was it just photos, or was it the whole cell phone, text messages, photos, everything anyone has personal on a cell phone?
in my experience, that's what a forensic download is the entirety of the phone.
And we didn't do a search warrant, she gave you consent for that,
Correct.
nothing else?
Mr. Trofficy?
You told her you could get a search warrant though, right?
I explained I could apply for a search warrant.
That's all.
All right. Thank you. Investigator, you may step down.
This trash.
I'm sorry?
I just.
Mr. Anderson, who is the next witness?
Can I just make sure we have a?
Yes.
Call Charles Coleman, Judge.
Charles Coleman? Lieutenant Coleman, please come forward. Please face the clerk, raise your right hand. She will administer the oath.
You swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. Please have a seat in the witness chair. Mr. Anderson?
Can you please state your first and last name for the record?
Charles Coleman.
And how are you employed?
I'm the patrol lieutenant for the St. Croix County Sheriff's Office.
And what are your duties as a patrol lieutenant?
Administrative and supervisory in nature, make sure that our deputies have the training and equipment that they need. We oversee their regular day-to-day duties and make sure that they're providing the service that the county and our sheriff expect.
And do you also assist sometimes in investigations if there's short hands?
Yes, any major felony case or critical incident, I will assist with the investigation.
And did you assist in this investigation?
I did.
And what role did you have?
My main role was to forensically map the crime scene or incident scene on the Apple River.
And as part of, why don't you just tell the jury generally what that means?
When you forensically map a scene, you end up taking an instrument or a device out there and you try to gather up all the physical evidence with the instrument to transfer over to a digital system, allowing you to view the scene days, weeks, or years later. The instrument is accurate and helps preserve the scene for you to see after the fact.
Once you have the scan, is it kind of like a video game where you can move around inside of it?
The scan ends up creating a 3D rendering, kind of like a 3D printer, only with data points. And then you can change the angle in which you're looking at that scene. So you're allowed to either do fly-throughs, like you said, still shots, or different perspectives at the scene.
And in order to, and you did that in this case?
I did.
And where did you do that scanning?
The scan was at the Apple River near Highway 64 overpass and towards upstream, further into the river.
And did you prepare, as part of your testimony today, a PowerPoint to help explain that to the jury?
I did.
Judge, I'd move to admit that PowerPoint.
What's the exhibit number?
Exhibit 51.
Any objection to 51?
No, Judge.
It's received.
Can we have the screen, please? What's in the image on this first slide?
The image on the slide is the Trimble SX10 total station scanner.
That's the device you used?
Correct.
And what are we looking at on this slide 3?
You're looking at a side-by-side comparison. On the right is the drone fly-through video. On the left is a similar fly-through that we did with the 3D mapping from the scene.
Where did that drone footage come from?
From Deputy Forrest Hendrickson and Sergeant Chase Duran.
So they flew the river, and is that a sheriff's office drone?
It is.
Oops. These are videos, right?
Correct.
And so what are you trying to document here, show?
Show the accuracy of the total station scanner compared to the drone video footage as an overview of the Apple River. The drone footage and the fly-through on the digital video are showing it going from downstream upwards upstream.
So you flying away from the bridge?
Correct.
And then what is this one?
It's a different video showing the drone flying upstream, now downstream towards the bridge. And on the left-hand side is a video fly-through from our forensic data showing the similar aspect.
Just trying to generally document the area of the river.
Correct.
Now, when the video stopped, do you see that shadow going across the river at the right image? Across the water?
I do.
Would that be the bridge?
It is.
What's this?
This is a legend explaining any future still shots, explaining what each item represents. On the right-hand side, it's not easy to explain the cardinal directions of many of our still shots and photographs, so it's easy to represent what's upstream and what's downstream. If you compare it to pouring a glass of water, as the water fills up, you get more blue down towards the bottom, so the water is flowing downward. Each circle represents initial point either for contact, attack, or witness groups, as well as knife recovery location.
How about slide 6?
On the left-hand side, you have a drone still shot photo overview of the river. As you see what the arrow downstream is at the bottom of the photograph. On the right-hand side is the still shot rendering with our forensic data utilizing the scanner showing the same viewpoint.
Slide 7.
Again, on the left-hand side is a still shot from the drone footage on the left side, excuse me, and on the right-hand side is a 3D rendered still shot using the total station scanner data showing the same perspective.
Same thing, but now facing upstream.
Correct. Upstream would be at the bottom and the river is flowing downwards towards the top of the photographs.
Slide 9.
Again, an overview photograph from the drone footage on the left-hand side. The right-hand side is our forensic still shot using the data collected from the scanner. The water at the lower left-hand corner is upstream and it flows downstream towards the bridge in the upper right-hand corner.
Slide 10, what are we looking at?
This is an overall still shot that we created with the scanner data. Included in this are locations of the initial contact. In the white circle, the yellow circle is the attack location. The pink circle is the Carlson tubing group, and the orange circle is the Miu tubing group. If you can see on the left-hand side of the middle of the river, there's a large white pole that extends from the tree line. That is the knife location. If we were to put a circle down on the ground, you wouldn't be able to see it because of the tree overhang from the 3D drawing.
And so the bridge would be above this area of the river?
Correct. The bridge would be further forward on top of the photograph.
And I'm just gonna end the show quick, so I have my pointer here. Is this what you're talking about, the vertical line of the knife location?
Correct.
I'm just gonna zoom in. And do you go through in later slides on how you estimated these locations?
Yes, with the assistance of Investigator Schultz, we were able to take direct data points utilizing a prism pole. He had an estimated location of each incident, and so we took direct shots to create that circle.
Similar diagram, but looking upstream now?
Correct.
So what are we looking at here?
On the left-hand side is a drone photograph. On the right-hand side is a similar perspective using forensic data. In this still shot that we took, we included the initial contact location, the Carlson group, Miu tubing group, and the right-hand side, you can see the long pillar where the knife location was at.
So that orange circle in the background to the right, in the scan, it looks like a kind of a green spot it's on, but that in the left, would that be that sandbar?
Yes.
Same diagram facing towards the bridge?
Correct. Different perspective.
Same thing?
Same thing, different perspective.
What are we looking at on this slide, 15?
On the left-hand side, we have a more focused still shot with the forensic data. With the instrument, we're able to get accurate measurements. And with this, we were able to determine the width of the river at different points along the river. As you can see on the left-hand side, the lower portion, it's 155, approximately 155 feet across, then 150, 147, and then 155 feet across. On the right-hand photograph, you see a more overview of more of the river. And again, the measurements are included there, 155, 150, 147, 155, and the river narrows to 123 and 110. And those are all in feet.
And is this, the technology for this, is it similar to kind of the 3D scans maybe some realtors or construction companies use now?
So the Trimble SX10 scanner is a total station scanner that utilizes infrared laser beams. It also takes panoramic photographs. And so you are able to take a scan in 360. Everything the infrared laser hits or reflects off of returns to the instrument. It creates a data point for that. It uses the pictures that it takes in order to create a color for each individual data point. It collects approximately 26,000 data points per second in the scanner mode. The instrument is good up to 600 meters, and at accuracy at 100 meters, it's approximately 14 millimeters. This instrument's used by land surveyors, building contractors, and in law enforcement, we utilize it for forensic gathering of scenes, whether internal or external.
Do you do anything to make sure that when it's giving you data points that it's accurately recording the distances?
Yes, we do a distance accuracy check at the beginning of the scan. We'll end up laying out a tape measure. We'll do a direct shot instead of a scan of that tape measure and measure it from there. We'll go into the computer software system, measure those two same points, and make sure that it's accurate.
So if you had this, the screen. If you had this program open on your computer, could you click between two different points and get a measurement of the distance between them?
Any individual dot that's on that drawing, we could get an X, Y, and Z measurement for it. So measurement across, height, and slope.
And then in the next few slides, what are you showing?
So this is, since we're able to view from different perspectives, this is the perspective if you're standing near the Miu group location by the island sandbar that you can see in the lower right-hand corner. The circle ahead of you is the initial contact location. On the right-hand side, the purple circle is the Carlson group.
I'm going to back up. I forgot to ask you a question here. I'm going to end the show so I can use my cursor.
Now, the witness has a monitor they can annotate.
Oh,
If both of you are aware of that or not.
all right. So in this slide, I just went back to 15. You have two dots representing where the Isaac's group was, right?
Correct.
Then for the Carlson's group, there's just one dot, but were they also drifting?
Yes, the location of the Carlson group was based off of Investigator Schultz's knowledge. We took a direct shot of it, but it was the stationary location, not them progressing down the river.
And what are we looking at here?
So with our drawing software, we're able to put in mannequins or models. In this case, we were able to put a 6-foot tall person into the river to show the perspective from Miu's group to what a person at that distance would look like. Again, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Again, with this one, now we have the yellow circle as the initial contact progressed further downriver to the attack location. The 6-foot tall person is placed in the general area of that attack location.
Slide 19.
This perspective is from the Carlson group, and here they're looking across river. So to your left will be upriver, and as the water flows to the right downriver, you'll see their perspective of the initial contact and their perspective towards the attack location.
Slide 20.
Again, in the drawing, we just include a 6-foot tall mannequin to show visual perspective of what a person would look like at that distance.
21.
This again is a 6-foot tall person now near the attack location, as witnessed from the original location of the Carlson group.
And these approximate locations of the groups, did you get that from comparing it to the video of the incident?
I did.
So what are we looking at on slide 22?
So on the left-hand side is our perspective of the initial contact is facing upstream towards the Miu tuber group. This will show on the right-hand side the still frame extraction from slide 0196. I ended up cropping the perspective to compare to what the phone video looks like for that still shot and showing the background with the trees and where the Miu group is at, putting that approximate circle there.
23. Slide 24.
Again, to help confirm with the initial contact location based off the video still shots from the cell phone, 0462 is on the right, and on the left-hand side is our crop perspective from the initial contact looking at that same bridge.
26.
In this still photograph, we compared still shot 2961 and created the perspective on the left using the drawing software program. It's looking back upriver. On the left, you see this purple circle for the Carlson group, and you can barely see it in the middle, the outline of the Miu group in orange. We cropped up perspective to match similarly to the phone still shot, and in the upper left-hand corner, you can see the light green grassy area just outside of the Sandbar Island area.
So just to simplify it a little bit, is it fair you're looking at the video and then trying to do a fly through of your 3D scan to find the same perspective of different clips in the video?
Do your best to go into the 3D drawing and zoom in or get to the exact perspective. And there may need to be some manipulation of just your viewpoint, not of the data, just of the view of what you're looking at inside the drawing in order to create the still shot on the left-hand side.
And 28, what are we looking at?
On the right-hand side is the still shot of the cell phone video 2995. On the left-hand side is the same perspective. This is now the attack location and showing the Carlson group straight ahead at that perspective. As you can see with the trees on the top of the photograph, matching the rendered drawing on the left-hand side.
And can we activate his screen, Judge, so you can kind of trace what he's talking about the tree
Yes,
line?
there should be a,
Cursor on there, Your
yeah,
Honor?
just use your finger.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm looking at here is the same tree line that I see here and then I see there to show the same perspective.
And then what are we looking at in slide 30?
This is an overview of the river. Upstream is towards the top of the photograph, downstream towards the bridge is on the bottom. We have the initial contact location is the white circle and a measurement between that circle and the attack location, which is in feet.
So about 62.
Approximately 62 feet, yes.
Same thing, but looking the other direction.
Correct. Now, the bridge is at the top of the photograph and upstream towards the islands at the bottom.
Slide 32.
This is a overview, the distance between the attack location and the knife recovery location, which is approximately 114 feet.
Slide 33.
This is the attack location to distance to the Miu group, which is 233 feet. And the approximate distance from the attack location to the Carlson group, excuse me, which is approximately 132 feet.
And that would be 132 feet from the ultimate spot, but if the Carlsons continued to drift downriver, they would have been closer, fair?
Correct.
Sustained.
Let me go back. So how many dots do you have for Isaac's group in this one?
2.
And what's the white dot?
The white dot's the initial contact location,
Yellow dot?
the attack location,
And then the pink dot for the Carlson group, what's that?
the initial location that Investigator Schultz told me where the Carlson group was at.
So no subsequent location of the Carlson group is identified in the diagram?
No.
And slide 34, what are we looking at?
On the left-hand side is a photograph from the drone footage. On the right-hand side is the still shot perspective.
And I'm just
Towards-
gonna zoom in. Actually, let me focus you here. On the left, how about just on the left photo, what are we looking at?
So it's a photograph from the drone footage showing deputies or investigators there. I believe Investigator Sheppy's on the left-hand side, walking in towards the tree line location on the south shore.
To identify where that knife was found?
That's where I was informed the knife was found, yes.
And then the right, same location, but from the scan?
Same perspective.
And so the bridge from here would be to the right?
Correct, downstream.
Same thing, but now there's that white bar.
White bar signifying the location of the knife recovery. Now just a zoomed out perspective of the knife recovery. And then an overview of the knife recovery location.
And then the bottom left of that right image would be that sandbar?
I do.
Did the sheriff's office measure the water depth?
We did.
And so what are we looking at in slide 38?
So with direct shots, we're able to utilize a prism pole We measure the height of the pole, and then the bottom of it, the instrument will measure where the sand ground is underneath the water, since the instrument does not reflect off water. So we're able to take direct shots in different areas of the river. And in this area, near the attack location, the approximate depth of the river was 0.83 feet, or approximately 9.96 inches.
And was this measured the same day as the incident or later, if you recall?
Approximately 1 month after.
Okay, so if the more rain, less rain, it could have been different?
Could have been.
Okay. I don't have anything else, Judge.
Mr. Nelson?
Just right away regarding the depth, sir.
You said the depth was measured 1 month later, correct?
Correct.
The date of the incident was July 30th, correct?
Correct.
And so August 30th, roughly?
September 1st.
Okay, so more than 30 days,
Correct.
32 days, 33 days, somewhere in there?
Somewhere in there.
You would agree that you've lived in this area for some time, right?
Yes, sir.
You're familiar with the river?
I am.
You're familiar with the trends of rivers in this area throughout the year, correct?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree that typically speaking, rivers' depth goes down between the end of July and the end of August?
Typically.
Did you do any investigation to determine whether or not the amount of rainfall that we had from July 30th to August to September 1st?
I did not.
So you have no idea, to some extent, how deep it was on July 30th?
Correct.
I'm sorry, maybe this would be a good time to break.
Sure, that's fine.
Taking a break in between examinations, but it is 2:30. Why don't we take 15 minutes? We'll come back at 2:45.
All rise for the hearing.
We are out of session until 2:45.
Judge, can we approach quick or we can talk? I just don't let the court know about the rest of the afternoon.
Sure, what's happening?
So we try to get in more witnesses. Some people aren't available, some have childcare. Basically, I think you have 2 more witnesses that are probably pretty quick.
We'll fill the day, right?
I don't think so.
Well,
So if we break early.
Let's go as far as we can.
It sounds like, Judge, the other thing is it sounds like the state agrees that whatever Spanish-speaking witnesses they don't call tomorrow, they have no objection to our calling those Spanish-speaking witnesses out of order since the interpreters are available. And our intention would be to call Ariel and Ernesto, 2 of the individuals that were here before, and Your Honor ordered to show up on Friday.
Yes, we have interpreters available all day tomorrow, so let's get all of the witnesses done tomorrow who need Spanish interpreters.
Then my only request is this, we explain it to the jury that given the interpreters, that, normally be state defense, but.
Yes, I'll do that.
And just also, Mr. Anderson had indicated that he may have a potential problem with one of his medical witnesses next week, and if he needs to call that person out of order, if he finishes and we start calling witnesses, we reciprocate.
Very nice. Excellent. Thank you. On recess.
Thank you.
inside your eyes. Can you feel the rush? Closing the gap we made. Oh, how I miss your touch. Push through the ceiling now. We can raise it up. Am I dreaming?
We are back in session. I am outside the presence of the jury. The attorneys are present along with Mr. Miu. I understand the attorneys would like to speak.
Yes, Judge. During Mitchell Sheppy's testimony, he was shown a screenshot that was published to the jury. We just had it printed out. Figured I could have that marked. Then it's probably exhibit 112, I think we're next at, for the record to know what it is we put up on the screen.
All right, thank you.
That's all.
That's it.
Yep.
I was bracing for something important.
I think it was important, but
Well, I used the wrong words, I'm sorry.
I appreciate that.
Something much more monumental. Whatever. Let's move on. It's late in the day, I'm getting tired.
Yes.
So, bring the jury in.
All rise for the jury.
Please be seated. We are back with the jury, ready to continue. Lieutenant Coleman's on the witness stand. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. Sir, I believe I was asking you questions about the water depth when we last spoke. During your testimony, I think you had said near attack location, and you said approximate. Can you tell the jury precisely where it was measured on the river, the depth?
Yes, there's a direct shot location placed in that point of the river.
Okay. Did you just measure it in that one spot?
Yes,
Did you just take a sample, like a foot here, 2 feet here, 3 feet over there? Did you do any kind of sampling in that general area?
yes.
Do you have those numbers?
I have a log of them, I do.
For whatever reason, you chose this number.
That was the number Investigator Schultz told, or the location Investigator Schultz told me to take the shot.
I understand. And so this is the river, right? You measured it from this spot, correct?
Correct,
You measured it from this spot because that man told you to, correct?
correct.
What I'm asking is, did you take a measurement over here, or over here, or over here, any place else around that area, just as a sampling of the area where Investigator Schultz told you to?
Yes,
Do you have those measurements?
there's a log measurement of the of the depths in those general areas.
And fair to say that it varies depending upon where you measure, correct?
Correct,
The location that Investigator Schultz chose, that's a human choice, correct?
correct,
It's not like you've done accident reconstruction, correct?
correct,
And you've done accident reconstruction on terra firma, on ground, correct?
correct,
And when you're on the ground, not on the water, it's easier to have a particular landmark, correct?
yes,
That's part of the difficulty about a river is it's fluid in every sense of that word, correct?
yes, sir.
And so for you to establish the landmarks that you mentioned, you were again using land, correct?
Correct,
So you didn't have any river marks or water marks, right?
correct.
Do you know what Investigator Schultz how he made that human decision to say, that's the spot?
He did not explain to me why he chose that spot.
And when he chose that spot to you, were you out on the river with him?
Yes,
And he was like, this is it right here.
yes.
Okay. Did you ever take that spot that he pointed to and compare it to the video?
Yes,
And what we know is, so we have that spot based upon the human choice that Investigator Schultz told you, right?
correct.
Then you also have what I think you called initial contact, correct?
Correct.
And was that based upon a human choice that Investigator Schultz told you or something else?
Human choice.
So he told you, here's where the initial contact was.
Yes, sir.
And then that was compared using landmarks to see whether the perspective is accurate? Is that what
Correct.
You're basically telling us?
Correct.
Okay. And what we know is from the initial contact to that yellow dot that you call attack location, that's like 62 feet, correct?
Correct.
And from that, can we deduce that Nicolae Miu walked 62 feet in that direction?
He was around the generalized initial contact location and the attack location, so an approximate distance of 62 feet.
He got there by walking, correct?
Correct.
And had that initial location, had that group of teenagers stayed there, he's walking away. I mean, if he's standing at the yellow dot and the teenagers stay at the white dot, the teenagers are 62 feet away from Nicolae Miu if they stay there, correct? Should we draw it out?
Yes.
Swore I wasn't gonna do this on TV. Okay. This is upstream. This is downstream. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
You had a mark that you called initial contact, and I think it was white. Is that right?
Yes.
Can I just use pink for this?
Yes, sir.
And then you had a mark that was more of a yellow, is that fair to say? Or an orange?
Yellow, but you can use orange.
You called this one up here attack, right? Correct?
Correct.
My understanding is that, again, this isn't in perspective, right? But the distance from there to there is 62 feet, correct?
Correct.
So Nicolae Miu, making this, he is initially here, correct?
No.
All right. Nicolae Miu is not at the initial contact?
He is not in that location.
Okay. So when you said initial contact, who's contacting whom?
When two groups converge upon each other and they are in physical contact with each other, whether by tubes or persons.
Who are there's Nicolae Miu, agreed?
Correct?
There's the teenager group, agreed?
Yes.
And there's the Carlson group, agreed?
Agreed.
And then there's the Miu group, agreed?
Agreed.
On this part, we don't have the Miu group, correct?
Correct?
On this part, we don't have the Carlson group, correct?
Correct.
Fair to say that the initial contact is between Mr. Miu and the 6 teenagers, agreed?
Agreed.
So Mr. Miu is, I didn't put it in here, but he's in this general area at the initial contact, correct?
Where you put the X is not the correct spot. I don't mean to be semantics, Mr. Nelson.
Put it where it needs to be.
Initial contact, because you're upstream, up here. Mr. Miu made contact at a diagonal, and he was above upstream from the tuber group.
So my mistake was on this part of it, right? Is now this correct?
Other than I don't have the X shown towards the shoreline, but in the general area, yes.
What do you mean by the, where would Mr. Miu be here?
Mr. Miu approached from this angle, so I'd put him here at the top upstream of the tuber group.
Okay, all right. And when you say he approached from this angle, you don't know that, correct?
Looking at the video, he came from upstream.
What video were you looking at? Is there a video of Mr. Miu walking from his group over to there?
He was upstream at an angle going towards the tuber group.
Okay. This is 62 feet, correct?
Correct.
The video that you watched, you're saying he walked more than 62 feet?
I don't know where he walked from. I just know he was upstream of the tuber group when he had initial contact with them.
Okay, so we've got two different, I want to make sure I'm not confused here, okay? Have you seen the videos from Jawan Cockfield's phone?
Yes.
There's a video that's been admitted that's 9 seconds long in which Mr. Cockfield yells out the word raper. Are you familiar with that video?
No.
There's a video that's 3 minutes and 20 seconds long that involves the incident that we're here to, the jury's here to determine. Are you familiar with that video?
Yes.
Any other video that you're talking about?
No.
Okay. And in the video then that you're talking about, which is an exhibit 2, and it's the 3 minutes and 20 seconds, that's the only video you've seen, correct?
Correct.
In that video, Mr. Miu is walking towards the teenagers, correct?
Correct.
He eventually, I think, jogs for like 3 or 4 steps, agreed?
Correct.
That's what you're talking about, is when he reaches his hands out and puts his hands on the tube, that's the initial contact, correct?
Correct.
All right. So now that we got that down, from that initial contact point until where whomever attacked whomever, that's 62 feet away, correct?
Correct.
So for Mr. Miu to get from here to there, he had to walk 62 feet downstream, correct?
Correct.
Had the teenage group stayed where they were, he'd have been 62 feet away, agreed?
Correct.
The only way that they got there is they followed him, correct?
I just know they ended up at the same location. I don't know who followed who.
Well, you watched the video, right?
I did.
And at some point, do you see Mr. Miu then walk towards the Carlson group?
Yes.
Do you know how far Mr. Miu walks from the place where he walked away from the teenagers to walk over to the Carlson group?
No.
Do you know how far the teenagers walked to follow him over there?
No.
Fair to say that in determining the locations, you determined the Miu group based upon the sandbar, correct?
Correct.
That's a landmark, correct?
Correct.
Fair to say you're very confident in that determination of that position, correct?
Yes.
Because that's not dependent upon a human saying it was here. It's a landmark, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, You've done accident reconstruction on roadways, correct?
Yes, sir.
On roadways, you're often asked to determine where the lanes of the road are, correct?
Correct.
Who's in which lane, correct?
Correct.
A river is completely different, right?
It is.
Because there's no designated lanes, correct?
Correct.
As far as you know, there's no, as a law enforcement officer, there's no place that a person can or can't be on the river, correct?
Correct.
I barely heard you.
Can we approach if we're going to have
Yes.
speaking objections?
Next question.
Just so I want to be clear, his answer stands, I'm moving on.
Fair enough.
At some point, you showed on there also the width of the river, is that correct?
Correct.
And I think the distances were ranging in that general area anywhere from 147 feet wide to 155 feet wide, correct?
Yes, sir.
Plenty of room for a group to go around one man?
Yes.
You talked about, again, on the drawing legend, we have, I think it's pretty obvious, initial contact, we've talked about what that is, right?
Correct.
And then the Carlson group and the Miu group, we talked about the Miu group is on the sandbar and that never changes, correct?
Correct.
The Carlson group is based upon one moment in time, correct?
Correct.
That may have changed throughout that 3 minutes and 20-second video, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at some point in that 3 minutes and 20 seconds, for lack of a better phrase, Mr. Investigator Schultz picked a space and said, let's put them here.
Yes.
And then the last location we talked about there, the term used was attack location, correct?
Yes.
You're a law enforcement officer. You've been in this position here testifying in front of a jury, correct?
I have.
Right. You're here to give facts, right?
Correct.
You're not here to make determinations, right?
Yes.
You're not saying who attacked who, correct?
Correct.
It's just, that's where this event happened, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're not meaning to imply one particular person attacked another or somebody attacked somebody else. You could have used the word event location, correct?
I could have.
Incident location, correct?
Yes, sir.
Were you given some direction by the district attorney's office to use that term?
No.
So that's a term you chose on your own?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And again, it's meant to be neutral. Fair to say?
Yes, sir.
All right. You talked about we had some slides up there about viewpoint, is that right?
Yes,
And the viewpoint that we showed in the slide, there was no, can I get exhibit 104 and 105? There's no human beings in between, like the Carlson group and the location that you were looking at the view. Agreed?
agreed.
Same thing for the Miu group, correct?
Correct.
You're obviously aware that sometimes if there's a human being in between the person who's looking and what they're trying to look at, that might obstruct the view, correct?
Correct.
Showing you, if I could get the screen. So this is exhibit number 104, which witnesses have testified is the approximate location of people at about 149, okay?
Yes, sir.
You would agree, depending upon where somebody is at G2, there may or may not be people obstructing their view to Mr. Miu, correct?
Sorry, can you repeat, sir?
Sure. If you were trying to, you at some point,
Object on relevance and speculation, we've had testimony.
Objections withdrawn.
you see the pen pointing at G2 there?
I do.
I was to tell you that's the Carlson group. Does that make sense to you?
It does.
Your one, at least one of your slides was the viewpoint from G2 essentially over towards, what you called the attack location where Mr. Miu was standing, correct?
Correct.
My pen would, again, generally speaking, that viewpoint, correct?
Correct.
You would agree that depending upon where a person is in relation to this G2, their view of Rhyley Mattison, Madison Cohn, Dante Carlson, Nick Miu, it may be obstructed by other human beings, correct?
Correct.
It all depends upon where they're standing and who's in their way, right?
Yes, sir.
Were you asked to do any modeling by the district attorney's office out of view if there were people in these positions?
No.
In the view that you had in your presentation, that was what we would perceive of a 6-foot model, correct?
Correct.
How tall was the person looking? Were they also 6 feet? Where on the?
From their head level, yes, 6 foot tall perspective, looking
So it was
across.
a 6-foot person looking at another 6-foot person.
Yes,
Obviously, that would change again depending upon their height
correct.
and depending upon their height in comparison to the humans that they may or may not need to look around or through or over or under.
Yes.
Those are the only questions I have. Thank you.
Mr. Anderson?
Attorney Nelson asked you 150 feet is enough room for a group to go around one man, and you said yes. Do you remember that?
I do.
Is it enough room for one man to walk around a group?
Yes.
And Attorney Nelson asked you about this drawing. That if the initial contact was here, 62 feet later is the attack location. If the group would have stayed there, Nicolai would have been up here and they would have been 60 feet apart. Do you recall that?
I do.
The beginning of the videos were the boys in their tubes
Yes.
and Nicolai was walking.
Yes.
The boys would have been floating in this direction.
Yes.
you actually know this exhibit 104? We have the screen. Do you know if this is where people were at some point at minute 49 in the video?
I don't know.
Do you know if this is even close to scale, the size of the circles for a person versus the distance between the groups?
There's no scale.
Thanks. Nothing else.
Mr. Nelson?
In your determination on yours, you relied upon a human being telling you, here's where it was, correct?
Correct.
You weren't there on July 30th, 2020.
Please be seated. Thank you, Lieutenant Coleman. You may step down.
Thank you.
Your one, at least one of your slides was the viewpoint from G2 essentially over toward
This drawing that if the initial contact was here, 62 feet later, is the attack. We have the screen. Do you know if this is where people were at some point at minute 49 in the video?
I don't know.
Do you know if this is even close to scale, the size of the circles for a person versus the distance between the groups?
There's no scale.
Thanks. Nothing else.
Mr. Nelson?
in your determination on yours, you relied upon a human being telling you, here's where it was, correct?
Correct.
You weren't there on July 30th, 2022 at 1:49 into that video, which would have been about 3:45 in the afternoon, were you?
I was not.
You agree it's reasonable to rely on the people that were there?
Yes.
If the people that were there say that that accurately reflects where the human beings were in relation to each other, that's the same as you're relying upon Investigator Schultz, correct?
Could be.
Right?
Could be.
In fact, they were there. Mr. Schultz, Investigator Schultz wasn't there, correct?
Correct.
So if you have no information, are you going to rely upon eyewitness information about people's placement or just speculation?
And to take all information into account.
And certainly one of the things you take into account is the people that are there that say, this accurately reflects where everybody else was and I saw them.
It'll be taken into account, yes.
That's all.
Thank you, Lieutenant Coleman. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Who is the next witness?
Detective De La Cruz.
Detective De La Cruz, please come forward. Yes. Please face the clerk, raise your right hand and be sworn.
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please have a seat in the witness chair. Mr. Anderson.
Can you please state your first and last name and spell your last name?
My name's Carlos De La Cruz. I'm a detective with the city of New Richmond. And you spell my last name 3 words, lowercase de, space lowercase la, space capital Cruz.
And Detective De La Cruz, were you asked to assist in doing some interviews in this case?
Yes.
And why were you asked to assist?
I'm often requested to assist with Spanish-speaking witnesses or victims or suspects to help with interviews.
Are you fluent in Spanish?
I am.
Did you grow up bilingual?
I did. I was born in Mexico. I spoke Spanish as a primary first language. I've been in the US for roughly 46 years, so I went through school here and learned English and grew up speaking both.
Permission to approach?
Yes.
Well, actually, can I have? I put exhibit 12A up here. Do you recognize some of the folks in this photo? Maybe hard to tell. They probably weren't wearing the same thing when you interviewed them.
Yes, I can identify a few of them that I spoke with.
Okay. Did you interview with Sergio,
Yes.
Tatiana,
Yes.
Alba?
Rosie or Alba, yes.
Did she introduce herself as Rosie with you?
Yes, Rosie.
And then how about the two on the far left, Ariel and Gilma?
Yes.
So you interviewed 5 of the people from this group?
Yes.
What language were those interviews done in?
Mostly Spanish. They did interject some English from time to time. I think they understood a little bit, but they were more comfortable in Spanish.
Okay. I'm handing you, it's been marked as Exhibit 44. Were those interviews recorded on body camera?
Yes, whatever investigator was with me, whether it be Dusty, investigator Geisness or investigator Sheppy, they had body cameras.
Okay. And prior to testifying today, did you have an opportunity to look at the contents of Exhibit 44?
Yes.
And is the body cam footage for those 5 interviews on Exhibit 44?
Yes.
Judge, I move to Exhibit 44 for foundation for some transcripts only.
Any objection?
Can we approach just so I can make sure I understand?
Yes. This time I will reserve on exhibit, was it 44?
Correct.
Reserve on 44.
I don't have anything else, Judge.
Mr. Nelson?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you, Detective. Who's next?
Sally Nichols. Can we take a short recess, Judge?
How much time do you need?
I think probably about 5 minutes.
Oh, we're good. She's here?
Yes.
She will administer the oath.
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please have a seat in the witness chair. Mr. Anderson.
Can you please state your first and last name and spell your last name?
Yes, my name is Sally Nichols, SALLY-NICHOLS. I apologize. I have a very bad cold, so I apologize for the sound of my voice right now.
Okay. And Ms. Nichols, what do you do for work?
I'm a certified court interpreter, so I do that pretty much full-time.
And are you certified in both Wisconsin and Minnesota?
Yes, and also the U.S. District Court.
Okay. And as part of your translator duties, do you often create transcripts translating from Spanish to English?
That is correct. I've transcribed and translated many transcripts in different cases.
Permission to approach? Were you asked to, by the sheriff's office, to translate some recordings in this case?
Yes, I was.
And was some of those 911 calls?
Yes, there were some 911 calls.
Okay. I'm handing you what's been marked as Exhibit 46.
Ah.
You identify what that is?
Yes, this is a transcript that I prepared. It's a transcript of one of the 911 calls.
And can you keep flipping through and see if there's some more? Another train?
Oh, yeah. This was the short one. And then there's another one right behind it, which is slightly longer.
So there's
That's correct. Two of them.
Two separate phone call transcriptions included in Exhibit 46.
That's correct.
Judge, I move to admit 46. I imagine the same.
Just ask that you're on a reserve based upon our previous discussion.
Okay, 46 is reserved.
And then, Ms. Nichols, did you also receive body camera from the sheriff's office to transcribe?
Yes, I did.
And let me back up. How are you fluent in Spanish?
Oh, I grew up in Puerto Rico. I was raised there, so my parents are from the United States, but I grew up speaking Spanish and English because when I went to school, obviously, we spoke Spanish and so on. So I was able to go to some Spanish-speaking schools and some English-speaking schools and eventually a bilingual school.
Okay. I'm going to hand you Exhibit 45. What is that?
Transcript of a body camera for an interview on August 3rd, 2022.
And do you include the file name on the top? You don't need to read it, just do you include the file names on tops of the transcript?
I don't have the file name on top, but I do see the name of the person who was interviewed.
And then do you see a number, some dash numbers?
It says 20-23-36.
Then, okay. Is that a transcript you prepared from one of the
That
body
is,
cameras?
that is correct, yes.
Okay, here I'm handing you Exhibit 58. Is that also a transcript that you prepared?
Yes, it is.
And can you just read the numbers on the top of that one?
Yes, it says transcript of body camera 8/21/10 main camera.
Okay. Exhibit 69.
Yes, that's also a transcript that I prepared, and it says transcript of body camera 21/11/31 main camera.
Okay. Exhibit 70.
Yes, I recognize this one too. This is transcript of body camera 19/01/12 main camera.
Exhibit 71.
And this one also. Transcript of body camera 18-10-01, main camera.
Did you transcribe these as accurately as possible, as close as you can get to a direct translation?
Yes, I did. What I do is I transcribe it first, just so I listen to it many, many times and decipher as much as I can hear. There are always a few words you can't completely hear, so I just write unintelligible when that happens. But yes, I transcribe it first, and then I go through and translate it into English.
Judge, I imagine with the same reservation, I'd move to admit exhibits 71, 70, 69, 58, and 45.
At this time, I'll reserve on those exhibits.
I don't have anything else.
Mr. Nelson?
No question.
All right, thank you. You may step down.
You're welcome.
Ms. Nichols, see the witness coordinator in the back, and she'll tell you where to go next.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Who is the next witness?
Judge, we've actually exhausted the witnesses we were able to get in for today.
All right. So there's nothing left to do.
I think we have something to address outside the presence of the jury.
Okay. Members of the jury, as I mentioned this morning, the attorneys have been working very hard to stay on task and to keep the case moving. They're doing such a good job that we ran out of witnesses for the day. So while we're not going to be able to advance the trial further today, be rest assured that we are ahead of schedule, which is a good thing. We will resume tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Please follow the same protocol coming into the building. Again, no independent research, no investigation. Do not visit the site. Do not speak with anyone about this case, including the attorneys, the media, the audience members, or anybody else. Do not watch any news reports or social media posts about this matter. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. All right, please be seated.
Can we actually approach, Judge?
Yes. All right. Thank you for your patience, everybody. I believe that we are done for the day. We're going to resume tomorrow at 8 a.m. with the interpreter witnesses, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
That's the schedule? Okay. All right, that's all. We are in recess. Thank you, everyone.
All right, everybody. So that concludes day 4 of the trial. Like I said, it was an eventful day. It looks like they're going to be wrapping up, or at least the state has the potential to wrap up Monday or Tuesday. It was nice to be able to finally see the positioning. I don't know what you guys felt, but it was nice to see the positioning. It's, like I said, it just continues to boggle my mind how the state decided to prosecute this case, because to me it's never been more obvious after today, hearing from the witnesses we heard from today, that this is a self-defense situation. Probably the best thing would have been done to not charge anyone and maybe just let it go, although I think you could make a case that those kids possibly should have been charged with some form of assault, or some form of felony assault. But this idea that she got hit, there's no photos of it. The photos are lost. You saw the picture of her in the body cam. She didn't look like she'd been hit. If she's getting haymakered by a 230 pound, 230 to 250 pound man, you're going to see it. And we didn't see it. And like I said, I think it's going well for the defense. And, well, it's shocking. It is. Now, I want to let you guys know, I know I have 6 of you left. I'm going to be posting up a link. I'm going to be going live watching the Tucker hearing here. I have the hearing now to stream it. We're going to watch it together here. Probably give me I'd say at about 5:30. I'm going to bring it up. We're going to watch it, talk about it. We'll do an early version of Justice Watch Live. I will do that before I will go up and put the nightly recast of this trial up. So we will watch that hearing, and then we'll also rewatch it tonight as we're breaking it down and talking on the vertical mobile stream. So give me a few moments here. I'll get that link up, get in there, get waiting, grab some popcorn. It's only about 15 minutes long. So we'll do some more talking about this case. We'll watch the Tucker hearing. And then, once we get done with that, we will then move on to the nightly stream. And also remember, Mr. Tucker is going to be on Excited Utterances podcast tonight, doing an exclusive interview at 6:30. I believe it's Eastern time. So you might want to be checking that out as well, because there's going to be lots to talk about. And it says, at Laura, I think what really happened was Mattison was in Miu's face and he made some gesture. Yes, that's exactly what happened, Jeff. You're 110% correct. That is exactly what happened. Let's put this up. Jeff's very insightful. He's got great insights, man. He really, really has the good stuff. Dante, yep. I know it does. And I know, and it's just disturbing that the prosecutors are pursuing this, and they've ruined this man's life. He's divorced now. He's lost everything. He's lost his job. I mean, he went to the river, and he's now going to come back if he were to be acquitted. And there's no guarantee that jury doesn't go back there and make a mistake here. But if he finds himself not guilty, he's spent his life savings, on this case, and There's no overturning that. There's no getting away from that. But anyways, guys, I appreciate you all. Please hit the like button on the way out. I'll see you guys at 5:30. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.